Hello and welcome back to Nerd Doc. In this video we're going to discuss the cameos in Multiverse of Madness, which means there will be spoilers for the movie. We'll mainly focus on the members of the Illuminati in Multiverse of Madness, but there are a few others to make note of, as well as a few variants and Easter eggs. Don't forget to check out our other Multiverse of Madness videos, including Wanda's fate and what's to come in Doctor Strange 3 with Clea and an incursion on the way. Since the movie is still in theaters, we can't go through it frame by frame, so if we missed anything, you have any questions about the cameos in the movie, or you just want to leave your thoughts about the Illuminati, leave a comment below and let us know. There are chapter timestamps, so you can jump around the video as much as you like. The main cameos in the movie were the Illuminati members, but we'll quickly mention Clea from the first post-credits scene. We already did a full video on Clea being played by Charlize Theron and what she'll mean to the MCU, but in short, she's Doctor Strange's wife in the comics, has similar powers plus the ability to travel between dimensions, is the on-again off-again ruler of the Dark Dimension, and the niece of Dormammu. There was also Bruce Campbell, who appears in almost every Sam Raimi movie. In Multiverse of Madness, he's a street vendor Pizza Popa who sells pizza balls. The Illuminati are exactly what you might imagine they'd be. They're a covert group made up of some of the most elite minds in Marvel. In the comics, the main Illuminati roster consisted of Reed Richards, Professor X, Doctor Strange, Iron Man, Black Bolt, and Namor, with other members coming and going such as Black Panther. Each member usually represents a primary faction of Earth's superheroes, such as Xavier representing the X-Men and Black Bolt representing the Inhumans. In Multiverse of Madness, the Illuminati is made up of Professor Charles Xavier of the X-Men, Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, Black Bolt of the Inhumans, Captain America, or should we say Captain Carter, who is Peggy Carter instead of Steve Rogers, Captain Marvel, who was Maria Rambeau instead of Carol Danvers, and the Sorcerer Supreme, who was Mordo instead of Strange. The Illuminati make decisions that impact all of humanity, which are sometimes very difficult decisions. An example of this would be the decision to kill Supreme Strange and then lie to the world that Thanos took his life in order to make him an idol and Earth's mightiest hero. They control a number of global and interstellar events and make decisions for the greater good of humanity, usually. In the comics, the Illuminati sent Hulk off-world, which was the catalyst for Planet Hulk and eventually World War Hulk when Banner came back to exact revenge on the Illuminati. It didn't end well for them. Taking a deeper dive into the individual members of the Illuminati in the film, while Professor X is played by Patrick Stewart and looks almost identical to the X-Men animated series version of the character, this is almost certainly just another variant. It's not the same Professor X from the Fox movies, and it's also not the same one from the animated series. Black Bolt, also known as Blackagar Boltigan, is a leader of the Inhumans and a variant of the Black Bolt from the short-lived Inhuman series, with both being played by Anson Mount. His main superpower is the ability to harness electrons. He uses the tuning fork on his forehead to help focus these powers and control them better. While he blows out the back of his skull in the movie, in the comics he technically could have just hummed and destroyed Wanda, but I guess that would have ended the movie too fast. Monica Rambeau was first seen in the Captain Marvel movie. In the 838 reality, she was the one who did the test flight and got powers from the Space Stone. While we did not see her powers used for very long, thanks Wanda, it's safe to assume they're very similar to the powers Carol Danvers has. Captain Carter is a variant of the one in the What If series. She ended up getting the Super Soldier Serum instead of Steve Rogers. In the movie she uses a jetpack, which is something Steve Rogers has used in the comics, but that we haven't really seen in the MCU. Mordo became the Sorcerer Supreme after the Illuminati killed Supreme Strange. He has abilities very similar to that of Doctor Strange. Finally, Reed Richards is the leader of the Fantastic Four. He has a vast intelligence that rivals and sometimes surpasses that of Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, depending on who's writing the comic. He is also a plastic man who can stretch his limbs to great lengths. He's played by John Krasinski, but since this is only the Earth 838 variant of the character, it doesn't confirm Jim Halpert will play the character when we see the main MCU version of him in the upcoming Fantastic Four movie, or perhaps even before that. It's certainly possible for Krasinski to play the main version, since we've seen that seemingly all of the Stephen Strange variants look like Benedict Cumberbatch, but you've also got the Loki variants who didn't all look like Tom Hiddleston, or the Peter Parker variants, who are obviously Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield instead of just 3 Tom Hollands. Outside of the Illuminati, the main remaining cameo would be the Living Tribunal, who was also shown very briefly in one of the trailers. The Living Tribunal is a mega powerful cosmic being who is as old as the universe. Its main job is to keep the multiverse in balance and safeguarded. There's a lot to this character, and it was only in the movie for about 3 seconds, so we won't get too far into everything here, but it basically watches over the multiverse kind of like Uatu, but will take action when necessary to make sure things remain balanced. That covers all the cameos that we found, so let's move on to the variants. In addition to the variants we've already mentioned, Charles Xavier, Black Bolt, Captain Carter, and Mordo, you also have Christine Palmer and Wanda Maximoff from Earth 838. Christine is working with the Illuminati and seems to be a bit more science-heavy compared to the medically focused Christine Palmer of the 616 reality. Other than that, she also had an on-again, off-again romance with the Stephen Strange from her reality before he was killed. Wanda from 838 seemed to be at about the same power level as the 616 Wanda was during Avengers Age of Ultron. There was no indication she was anywhere near the power level of Scarlet Witch, but she did have children with no mention of who the father is. She may have created them, just like the 616 Wanda did in WandaVision, but they left that ambiguous, and the assumption is that they were real. Billy and Tommy weren't technically variants, since the 616 versions weren't real, but there was no indication that they had powers in the 838 universe, or that they were mutants. The final variants were all Doctor Strange. You've got Defender Strange, who seemed to be a bit more versed in the mystic arts, but fairly close in ability to the Stephen Strange from the main reality. Supreme Strange had the power of the Darkhold, meaning he was probably stronger than both Defender Strange and 616 Strange. Sinister Strange also had the Darkhold and was likely the most powerful of the variants that we've seen, but the Darkhold's corruption and his desire for Christine clouded his mind and allowed 616 Strange to best him in battle. That means every Strange variant we've seen is dead, so by default, 616 Strange is the best? Anyway, moving on to the Easter eggs, you've got 838 Christine Palmer mentioning the Baxter Foundation, which is directly tied to the Fantastic Four. In fact, the entire Illuminati facility may have been inside the Baxter Building, which is generally the home base of the Fantastic Four. They never actually confirmed this in the film, though. Christine mentions that our Doctor Strange is from Earth 616. This is an Easter egg for comic book fans who know that the main reality in the comics is known as 616. While it may be confusing to think the MCU is also 616, it's very clearly different from the main reality in the comics, so while they may have the same number designation, they are different realities. Marvel probably used 616 as a fun nod to comic book fans, even though it's turning out to be more confusing than fun. When Wong is talking about the origins of the Darkhold with Wanda, he mentions Chthun and Demogorge. Demogorge is the God Eater who was created to destroy the demons on Earth. In the comics, he's also known as Amun-Ra, the Egyptian god of the sun. While this is a deep cut for comic book fans, it can also be seen as a subtle nod to Moon Knight, which featured a number of other Egyptian gods. Chthun is a super powerful elder god who created the Darkhold. The power Wanda and Steven get from the Darkhold comes from Chthun. Last but not least, we have the Ultron bots. While you might assume Tony Stark created them, there was no sign of Stark or Iron Man in the 838 reality. Tony may have just died at some point before the movie, but it's more likely that the Ultron bots were created by someone else. If you recall, Bruce Banner helped Tony create Ultron in the main MCU timeline. It's not out of the question for a genius like Reed Richards to have created them in the 838 reality. Did you see any other Easter eggs, variants, or cameos? Let us know in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Doctor Strange.